بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله ta'ala wa barakatuh. I just wanted to take a few moments to address some concerns that were put to me about what are we doing at Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City with some of the activities that we're doing online. So instead of answering every individual separately, I figured that I would take a moment to summarize some of our objectives with these activities that we're doing online. In particular, the Post-Fajr Reflections and the Black Imams Roundtable. So I can summarize both things in 6 points, 3 points for each thing. And it can be broadened, but just to summarize, to give you a picture, an idea of what we're trying to accomplish. That way, you know, when we having these live sessions, what is our main intent? As for the Post-Fajr Reflections, it started out to get me active on social media because many of the people who know me, my habit is I like to teach live with the student and teacher face to face. And for me, this was the way I learned Islamic knowledge. And I really believe that it is the best way to develop a strong person who understands their deen and knows how to practice it. However, some of the young brothers in our community, they constantly emphasize the need to teach online, to share lessons online, and they were pushing me. So I started with those brothers doing the barbershop talks. Some of y'all may be familiar with that we used to come into one of our brothers from our community. He has a barbershop, and we would come in and we would have like conversations about relevant issues in the community. And me as Imam Amin, I would come talk about Islamic issues and sometimes community issues that I'm involved with. And we would just sit like in the barbershop, get a haircut, and just, you know, talk about the issue and chop it up. And it was a way for them to get me used to being online talking. It was a clever way to get me to do what they were trying to get me to do. Because many people are not going to come to the masjid and not going to sit in the class. So I said, you know, I got a lot of feedback from people who enjoyed it, from places that I would never imagine they were listening. So from that, I decided, okay, let me find a time that I'm most free where I could start to do some short lessons, brief talks, or reflections online. So the best time for that was after Fajr for me. So I started to have the Post-Fajr Reflections. What did I intend by doing this? Since I'm going to do it, what I want to accomplish. So I had 3 basic objectives that I still have with the Post-Fajr Reflections. The first objective was to spread the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. For me, many people that I saw online were conveying knowledge that was not consistent with the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah in terms of belief, especially in terms of belief and sometimes in terms of practice. So I wanted in our communities and in our uh, groups to have exposure to the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah in terms of belief, in terms of practice, and also in terms of spirituality. So that was the intention. All right, everyone can go online and hear ideas or speeches or lectures about Islam from all different types of methodologies. But rare is it to find online consistently the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah taught in a traditional way with a connection through chains of teachers back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that is, given to us and exposed to us. So I wanted to open up a form of access to that methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Then, in addition to that, the second thing, by doing that, I had the intention to revive the study of the Islamic sciences, and particularly the three sciences of al-Aqidah, al-Fiqh, and al-Tasawwuf. So that I wanted those Fajr reflections to clarify and explain the belief of Islam as represented by the two schools in belief, the Ash'ari school and the Maturidi school, right? So that we would be familiar with what the belief of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah is, and have knowledge and information about the schools that represent Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah and the books that convey that knowledge. So that hopefully by these post-Fajr reflections, it will be common among the people. They hear the madhab of al-Ash'ari or the madhab of al-Maturidi, right? And they will realize these two madhabs, these two schools in Aqidah are the madhabs of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. When they hear the name Imam al-Ash'ari or Imam al-Maturidi, they know that these are the Imams of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And they would have confidence now in following that methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So this in Aqidah. So now we correct the belief of people by giving them access to it, where what we find a lot of times, this knowledge is not readily available. What is readily available is a knowledge about belief that contradicts the belief of these great Imams and of the way of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So this was a way of reviving that. So that now we will see that a person says, I'm Ash'ari, I'm Maturidi, I follow the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. These are the books I learned, these are the teachers I learned from in Aqidah. And I know this is the Aqidah, this is the proper belief in Islam, right? So that is one way to do that. The second thing was in al-Fiqh, in the rules of the religion. You would hear common people saying online and in our communities, I follow Quran and Sunnah, without really knowing what it entails to follow Quran and Sunnah. So there was this concept to expose the people to the methodology of learning al-Fiqh, learning the rules of the religion through the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah and the proper way of knowledge transfer. And that is established within the four schools, the Hanafi school, the Maliki school, the Shafi'i school, and the Hanbali school. And then to expose you not only to the school, but the rules of the religion as conveyed by those schools and the books of those schools and the scholars that represent those schools, so that one would know properly how to do one's acts of worship, and that proper methodology will be consistent with the scholars that came before us in their unbroken chains back to Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So that was the part of reviving the spirit of the knowledge of al-Fiqh. And then thirdly, the knowledge of al-Tasawwuf or Sufism. Because many people, when they hear the term Sufi or they hear the term Sufism or Tasawwuf, They already have, like, this is a taboo science, or this is some innovation that we should not accept. So what I wanted to do was to show that the science of tasawwuf is part and parcel of all of Islam, and it is among the primary sciences of the religion, and to expose people to the scholars of tasawwuf, to the books of tasawwuf, and then give them to realize that this is a necessary element to practice in the religion, so that now all of the primary sciences from the methodology of Ahl Sunnah would be available in terms of Aqidah, in terms of fiqh, in terms of a tasawwuf. And then from there, as we continue, build upon that to the rest of the secondary Islamic sciences would be covered, would be mentioned, and people would benefit. So that was the second thing. So the first thing, spread the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. The second thing, revive the study of the Islamic sciences among the people. The third thing, which was a targeted thing, was to get that information to the people that reside in the inner cities of America, right? Because in the inner cities of America, we found that what was predominant among the people was the methodologies of the people who deviated from the way of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So what our intent was, now in the suburbs, you find, if you go around the suburbs in the country, you'll find masajid and groups that are Ahl Sunnah, but they have no connection to the inner city. So you would go to these gatherings where there are scholars that have come, but it'll be maybe 4, 5, 6. You could have 100 people, 200 people, and you only have a handful of blacks or Hispanics. They would not be exposed because most of them live in the inner city, and that knowledge would not reach them. It would usually be given to the affluent, those who have, means and resources. They would sit with the teachers. They would learn with the teachers. They would drink coffee and tea with the teachers. They would camp with the teachers. They would study the books, but the inner cities would be left out, and they would be left to the hands of people of misguidance, and that would predominate in the inner city. So therefore, there was this specific target by being an African American, being a black imam who studied traditionally. Therefore, they would be exposed to someone who could articulate the tradition in a way that they can understand and accept. So that was the third purpose of the Post-Fajr Reflections. So I repeat those three things. These were the main objectives of the Post-Fajr Reflection: spread the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, revive the study of the Islamic sciences, the science of the religion among the people, and third, specifically target the inner cities of America where people are not given access to this classical, traditional system of learning. That is the Post-Fajr Reflections, and that's what we're doing. So our intention is to get this religion out in its different aspects so that people would understand it. This doesn't mean that everyone could not benefit, but I'm just giving you the purpose that we were originally trying to do, and we don't want to lose that purpose, though this will benefit every Muslim everywhere, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So this was our intention with the Post-Fajr Reflections, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to continue to people so that people would benefit and they would learn, and they would learn in a way that they can also convey, inshallah. So that is the Post-Fajr Reflections, and alhamdulillah, it's been several months now, and we've been consistent, and it is growing, and the people are participating and they're learning, and alhamdulillah, we are very pleased with the progress, inshallah. So that is the Post-Fajr Reflection, which is every morning, 7 days a week, from 7 to 8, unless someone asks some questions and I get excited and go further. But normally from 7 to 8. And alhamdulillah, we are really improving on that. As for the Black Imams Roundtable, why the Black Imams Roundtable, and what is it all about? It is simple. The Black Imams Roundtable also has in its vision those three things that were mentioned in the Post-Fajr Reflections. We want to spread the methodology of Ahl Sunnah. We want to revive the Islamic sciences. And we're trying to target those inner city communities. But more in particular, there were three things that came to my mind in general when we started it. The first was to cooperate with fellow imams, African-American imams, around the country. We always talk and we always, individually, imam talk to this imam, what's going on, but we never came together in one place on a regular basis to try to start working on issues that we all face. So we wanted to come together and start to cooperate with one another and also have our masjids cooperate with one another. So if you put us all on one platform, the different imams who are all Ahl Sunnah, that is what we wanted to do. That doesn't mean we would never talk to no one else, but our intent was to have imams who follow the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, or those who were inclined to the methodology of Ahl Sunnah that were African American on one platform that could work together and start talking about issues that relate to us and our communities. So that was the first thing, mutual cooperation between Black imams, African imams around the country. The second thing was once we came together, and we did do that, we met and we had many activities together, was to start sharing and teaching our lessons and our seminars between our communities. So that we would go around, say we would have a group of imams that we started to cooperate, then those group of imams would go around the country and hold lessons and seminars in different masajid. Because another problem that we saw was many of the masjids were in the African American community are not exposed to traditional knowledge, are not exposed to the methodology of Ahl Sunnah, even some of the imams. So they don't have these activities. So in order to do it, you have to get some who have some exposure, work together, train each other, and then go out and start to spread. Like most of the times you go to the average masjid and ask, have you ever studied a complete book of Aqidah with a teacher? No. Have you ever studied a complete book of fiqh with a teacher? No. Have you ever studied a complete book of tasawwuf with a teacher? No. Have you ever studied a complete book of hadith, of tafsir, of fiqh, usul al-fiqh, Arabic, anything? No. So that means, and that's the traditional way of learning, it's not available. So if we start working together and going around, because many of the imams, they're not paid to be imams, so they have to work. So they don't have time to do everything. But if we cooperated together, so maybe the imam, you're good at this, you've learned this, so you teach this. You're good at this, you learn this, so you teach this. So therefore we would have different teachers, all from our communities, that would go to different communities around the country, sometimes together, sometimes individually, and start to teach our communities and build the level of education within our communities. Right? This is extremely, extremely, extremely important. So now education becomes a priority in our communities. They're starting to learn different books, and we had the intentions to teach complete books, not just give lectures, but actually sit down, come to this community. Someone goes there, someone goes there, and simultaneously, we're teaching sometimes the same book, sometimes different sciences, so that when you start to, after time, all the communities would have learned at least their far'ain, their personal obligatory knowledge, essential knowledge. They would learn some of the secondary branches of learning. And then with that, they could, become more confident in their Islamic studies. And hopefully over time, we would raise imams, teachers, and one day scholars, right? From our community on the FUBU matter, for us, by us. It doesn't mean exclude no one else, but it means to give dignity and pride within the people who are not having that, right? And I know many people, they would come when we would have our programs in Atlantic City at Masjid Muhammad. They would be coming from all over the place to study and learn books. And they'd be like, man, I wish we had this in our city. We don't have no classes. Or we would go visit some communities and it would be like a breath of fresh air for them to have a teacher come and sit with them and teach and give a lesson. Some of them don't have the financial resources to bring in teachers. So we would pay for it ourselves and come and do a program and raise money and give that money to the masjid. So the masjid is empowered. That was one of the things we wanted to do with the lessons. So that was another part of the mission of the Black Imams Roundtable. The third aspect was once we came together, once we visited each other, we became close. The communities became brother and sister communities. They were very close. They're connected. Now, let's start pulling our resources together and having financial stability in every masjid around the country. So all those imams who were leaders, they all had masajid. So in order to be in it, you have to have a masjid. You have to have a community, right, that you're leading. So therefore, now we will start supporting those communities. So we, for instance, if we go there, we do a lecture, we raise, we bring all our teachers, we have a lecture, we fundraise, because people will support when they see a lot of different teachers. That strengthens the local leadership. And then that money goes in to start building a stability within their community. It gives the imam some money so he don't got to work all the time. It gives needed resources to the community for projects they're trying to develop. And if we could do that all around the country, even if we started only with a group of masajid, but as we work together and build, then we would have more money, more resources to do more work. And that led to what we have, the Ramadan activity that we did. And we had 5 masajid, 5 African-American imams, and we had a very successful program, and we're still going, and we're still in the back, behind the scenes working on it. So these were those 3 things that I wanted to do with the Black Imams Roundtable. And our brother Abdul Wali, he, mashallah, was working on our mission statement that he wanted to share with us. And he said the Black Imams Roundtable's mission is to provide excellent education, economic and social development in the Black communities interconnected across America by way of the Islamic law, producing leadership and communities that hold the morals, ethics, and values of Islam and overall mission. All of that according to the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So that is the brief purpose and objective of what we're trying to accomplish with the Post-Fajr Reflection and the Black Imams Roundtable. So I'll take a few questions, inshallah, if someone has some about those things, and inshallah, if not, we would have completed our mission of answering those 2 questions. Let me go up and see if there were some questions. And if you have some questions about anything I said, feel free to go ahead and type your question. Make my glasses. Allah. Assalamu alaikum. I log in every morning from NYC and I love to read. And I've been exposed to 2 books by Imam Haddad. I have just started reading them both and I love them. I thank Allah for this class that I stumbled upon. May Allah reward you, Imam Muhammad. Very important information. We need to change our condition. Yes, and inshallah, it is my intention to read all of the books of Imam Haddad in these sessions. So just stick around. We're going to go from book to book to book to book. Inshallah, we'll finish over some time all of the books of Imam al-Haddad. This is something that I believe that Imam al-Haddad's books, especially in our time, especially in America, are very suited for changing our condition, right? Inwardly and outwardly. And as you stick to the classes and the way we present Imam al-Haddad and his works to you, you're going to see how effective it is in helping us improve our condition. And I honestly believe in the inner cities, the methodology of Imam al-Haddad, specifically in the inner cities, is what is needed. The methodology of Imam al-Haddad, the way it's presented, it is ideal for changing the conditions of the inner city and also changing the thought pattern of the people who need or outside the inner cities, but need to unify with all the Muslims so that we can be stronger. I think the methodology of Imam Haddad, the teachings of Imam Haddad are directly, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, are directly suited for that. And Allah knows best. This is my conviction. Repudiating the anti-blackness among the Muslim Ummah, is that also a mission of Post-Fajr Reflections? Not of Post-Fajr Reflections, but the Black Imams Roundtable. It is also, that is part of the work they're doing. Repudiating, that we wanted to do, repudiating anti-blackness among the Muslim Ummah, of course, because that's a disease. It's a disease of the heart. So I guess if you want to say, by learning about at-tasawwuf and learning about the works of Imam al-Haddad in the Post-Fajr, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, in the Post-Fajr Reflections, then automatically, if you clean your heart, you're not going to have a sentiment of anti-blackness. So I guess it can apply for both. The black man's, not the black man's, Black Imams, not the black man's. Black Imams Roundtable. Some of them have to work on their scholarship. That's the process. No one claimed to be a scholar. So inshallah, as we work more and learn more, and it'll happen. But I believe it is not a matter of them working on their scholarship. I believe it's a means of having access to scholarship, because I can respond to that. I don't know Brother Bashir, Chris personally, but I believe the reason why you find in the inner cities a lack of scholarship, I think that was intentional, personally, and that's my personal opinion, that people who had the knowledge, who studied, they don't go in the black community. So therefore, if there's an old saying in Arabic, "Faqidu shay la yu'ti," the one who doesn't have a thing can't give it. So if no one gave them access to scholarship, how do you expect them to be scholarly? Now, if we gave them access and then time, which it takes to learn, then we ask them, now what, right? And that's the intention. Once we continue to teach, continue to learn, continue to show the methodology, now give them time and see what we produce, right? So don't judge, and I say judge, don't look at it now in the beginning of a thing. Look at it after time and learning and exposure, then look at where it's at. Then say, okay, I remember where they didn't have access, so this is what they were talking like. When they were given access, when they were taught, when they were trained, now this is what they're talking about. Like, I know some students that came to us, they had bad belief, bad practice, bad books. They were a mess, right? And after several years, now all of them are teachers. Some of them are teaching in Egypt and spreading and sharing. Some of them are teaching in America. Some of them teaching in Pakistan. Some of them are teaching in the masajids and the inner-center community. Brothers are learning. So there are a lot of people working, but it takes time and they need to be exposed. Without the exposure, I don't know how much you're going to, we'll never see scholarship if we don't provide them with it and be patient as they learn it. So that is the intention, inshallah. But I don't doubt more learning needs to take place, but that takes time. It takes time. This ain't microwave Islam. It's a slow cooker. It's going to take time. But let them teach what they learn, and let them begin and be patient with their mistakes, correct cor- correct their mistakes, and inshallah we'll be all right after time. We're hurting bad in Columbus. We need help. Yeah, everyone needs help. Inshallah, as soon as this pandemic break, we're on our way to communities all around the country. But because of the corona and all that, we can't move like we want to move. But as soon as this thing breaks, inshallah, we've been saving money. We're going to be flying imams all over the country. And with a program, with a system, we're going to be moving, inshallah, if Allah gives us tawfiq. Right now, it's just what we can do because of the situation. Isa, I'm unofficially in charge of the memes for the Black Imams Roundtable in the Midwest. MashaAllah. The memes, not memes, memes. Okay, MashaAllah. You're unofficially in charge for everybody. How about that? Then when I get approval from the other Imams, you'll be officially in charge. You're funny too, I gotta say that. I will add the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But turn that second M to an A. Jama'ah. Ahl Sunnah turns the L in Ahlu to a S. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. No Imam code cracker. Naive. And Imam Luqman, can you give some bio of the Imam schedule for the next roundtable? They are Black Imams. We don't need bios. That's corny. Imams who we're going to benefit from. We don't need all that. That leads to ego. I don't want nobody. Just, that's my brother in Islam. Let him speak the truth. No pun intended. Seriously, we don't want the show. Never mind your biography. Who cares? Are you speaking the truth? Are you Ahl Sunnah? All right, we'll listen to you and we'll find out. Are you giving us something that can benefit? I don't want to hear your credentials. I'm not interested. Maybe you are. You can go on their websites. Go look for their bios. But nah, the show stuff, man. Because people got a lot of credentials and a lot of bios, and when they talk to them, they empty. You know what I'm saying? So I'd rather you have some substance. I ain't care about your biography. No offense, Brother Farouk. I love you. I just want some soldiers. We got all these fancy titles and no work. Get into work. Do something. MashaAllah. Yes, we're going to have a traveling version. Inshallah, we just got to connect the imams, and so that we can get them in Sajid in different places, or we can learn to rent spots. We got to raise the money to do all that. We've been doing it. So that's what we've been doing with all this money that we've been raising. We've just been saving it, doing programs, trying to get everybody together. So as soon as this pandemic break, we can start moving. They come in the community telling us what to do instead of, what was that? Instead of teaching Islam. No, not only tell you what to do, take over your community, take all your resources and leave you broke and struggling and arguing with each other. Much more than that. Can you give some brief words of clarity for our new Shahada watching about how our teachings may be explaining the differences of Ahl Sunnah and a very hood popular Salafi movement? Nothing extensive, just a bit so they can get some understanding into the classes and books being taught. In summary, there is a classical way of learning Islam, from teacher to student, with trustworthy books and an unbroken chain to the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the people who follow the Sunnah and the majority of the Muslim nation. There are other groups who don't particularly follow that methodology that have become popular, and they're spreading teachings of Islam that don't reflect our classic tradition. So it's more of a Protestant movement in Islam. And if that's a summary way. So what we're doing is we're teaching the traditional classical way of learning the religion, as opposed to a modernist movement that only existed 200 years ago. And you'll learn that just by attending the lessons and classes. Uh, uh, yeah, but be patient. This stuff takes time. We're doing a lot of uh, dissecting and restructuring and recalibrating. How to say reorganizing things. It takes time, man. We at work. We got a lot of stuff to do. The Dean Intensive, like gathering, we're going to do that, but we gotta wait to the pandemic because we can't gather and then flying people around, So, and as soon as we get an opportunity, we're about trying to do it. How about Western Canada? I don't know much about Western Canada, but if it can be arranged, why not? We're all Muslims. The Black Imams Roundtable is not an organization. We have not and will not be applying for a 501c3. All of our masajid have 501c3, and I don't believe starting a bunch of organizations is going to help us. Each organization need to work with their local leadership, stick to their local leadership. If the local leadership is not good, you need to work with some leadership that is good, that is Ahl Sunnah, some masjid that is doing the same work, and support them with their 501c3 as we all work together. But making another organization, whether it's Black Imams Roundtable or something, I don't know. Support our local masajid, support our local leadership, and produce strong communities so that we can build. All these third spaces and all that stuff, man, I'm not with that. Go to the masjid, build the masjid, empower that community, build it up, build its leadership, educate them, and let them do the local work. The local leaders come together with national imams around the country, work together as a group, and we'll be all right. There's enough 501cs to go around, 501c3s to go around. We don't need any more. We work together. We can share our resources. We can share what we need. We don't need all these extra movements. We don't. That's counterproductive. We don't need no biographies. Go get some professionals. I don't think that's. We don't need biographies. Our target. We need sincere people, right? All that we do it ourselves. If someone needs a biography to support us, I don't want them. Honestly, really, even if they got money. We need to learn to be sincere people. You ever see the Sahaba or any of the great scholars walking around throwing biographies around? No, they were people who proved themselves, right? And I got the corporate America, the show, and my sheikhs never showed me a biography, ever. Never. And we learned. And I had many teachers. Never, ever have I went to one of my teachers and said, let me see your biography. Their work was their biography. Their knowledge that they taught was their biography. And we learned their biographies after learning first. That wasn't a condition for us to learn. Right? We learned. And we learned what Ahl Sunnah was. So no matter who the teacher was, whether he had a big, long biography or none at all, long as he was teaching the knowledge correctly and authentically, that was sufficient. We losing sincerity with all this stuff. Stick to sincerity. Just teach the knowledge as you got it, as you learned it. Convey your Senate, convey your stuff. And we good. And we got enough to check if you're making mistakes. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I totally disagree with that. I don't want to duplicate the methodology of people who are not serving us. I want us to learn to start trusting each other, to start supporting each other, standing behind each other will work. And I'm not saying that's not, but that goes quickly into showing off, and we don't want it. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I've seen some biographies that make you cry. Like, come on, man, knock it off. Be careful with that. If you go to those biographies, a bunch of names thrown around in books, and then you start going into the person, they empty with a nice fancy biography. Empty. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. We don't want that. I need you to be full, authentic, real. Beware of showing off. It's a disease. Our teachers, no, don't write my biography. Those who want to learn, let them come. Those who don't want to learn, they need a biography, let them go find a biography. Those who want to learn, let them come. I've been told that multiple times by my teachers. And they got biographies that can stretch from here to the Kaaba. You know what I'm saying? No, absolutely not. Allah. Okay. And no offense intended by my complete rejection of those ideas. That doesn't mean there's no benefit in them. I don't think it benefits us, right? As a whole, not individually. But those scholars of old, in their biographies, Sayyidi, they were written by others, not by the scholars themselves. The scholars never said, here, put my biography up. Someone came later and wrote about those scholars. So books of Ilm Rijal were not written by the people themselves. They didn't push their stuff out. Someone else wrote about them, not them. They didn't say, oh, I studied with so-and-so, and I got this degree, and I got an ijazah from him, and I sat with him, and I got ijazah from him. No, they never did that. Wallahi, if I wrote a biography about myself and who I studied with and who I sat with and who I learned from, it would be so many names, right? And it wouldn't mean anything at the end of the day if I can't teach the knowledge, right? If I can't convey to you the proper methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. I'm going to share a story with you, an inside story with you, since you asked the question. You know Sheikh Samir, you know my teacher very well, one of my teachers. You know him. You've met him. You've sat in his classes. One time we were somewhere, and there was this guy. We came to a place, and they celebrated him as a big scholar, and he this and that, and he learned here, and he got this, and he got this. Right? Seriously, they had the air pump, and they was boosting him up, right? He had Superman muscles when they finished him, right? And I was sitting next to the sheikh. We were sitting in a session. So it was, and they even named the session, we're going to have all the scholars sit together. This stuff is, you can't make this stuff up. That's how we want all the scholars to sit together. This guy started talking. Soon as he started talking, he contradicted scholarly consensus in his judgments. And Sheikh looked at me and said, with his eyes, like, scholar? He studied with who? Soon as he started talking, contradicting scholarly consensus, deviant opinions left and right, that went against all four schools. But he's a scholar. But he had a nice biography, very nice. It was a mess. Unlawful to learn from him. But so biography means what? He had an extensive biography, studied in great institutions, but contradict consensus in his opinions, and not just one, multiple, in one sitting, in conversations. La ilaha illallah. So what for the biography? What did that do? Nothing. All right, I'm sorry. You know you can get me going. Now that wasn't Suyuti, that was Abdul Wahab al-Sha'rani. But that wasn't a biography, and it says he was showing people how to thank Allah for the endowments. So he was giving examples. He wasn't writing a biography about himself. Though some scholars have wrote books on biography by being requested, but that wasn't the means of getting known, writing a biography about yourself. That wasn't it. Though some scholars wrote biographies. I'm not saying no one never wrote a biography about themselves. That wouldn't be true. I know better than that. But that wasn't the way they weren't into marketing. They were sincere. They taught the knowledge for those who wanted to learn. It wasn't a marketing business of scholars and personalities. In fact, they were the total opposite. And Saleh, you know this better than most. You don't see the scholars in Hadramaut, in Tarim, talking about their biographies. Right? You don't see that. I've been with some teachers for over a decade. I never saw them talk about a biography. Every time we go to talk about their biography, they put their head down. And then when we finish, they say, Astaghfirullah. No, go ahead. Alhamdulillah. I'm getting ready to close down. I think we're at the end of the questions. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. That's I don't disagree with you that it has a benefit. I'm just thinking for where we at is not a priority. What is a priority is learning. And Farouk, with about the record of chains of knowledge and ijaza, we should sit down and learn first, right? Because people do this too, and I hear it, and I don't like it. I hear people saying, I'm like, this is my sheikh, and you study nothing. How is your sheikh? You haven't completed one book with him. How is your sheikh? Right? And we go out saying, my sheikh, and I study with such and such, and you didn't study anything. This is not good. That's another problem. You need to sit down and learn, right? And it's cool. Then say, I got an ijazah. Most of the ijazahs that you see, they're ijazahs of barakah, blessing. They're not ijazahs that say you know anything, right? They don't say you know anything, right? So we don't get fooled by that. Your ijazah means nothing if you don't learn. I mean, for the barakah, for the blessing that I sat with, I was in a company teacher, and I know their connection. That's a benefit. But if you don't know your ijazah, don't say nothing. I got an ijazah in aqidah, and you don't know aqidah. I got an ijazah in fiqh, and you don't know the rules of fiqh. I got an ijazah in tasawwuf, and you don't know how to purify your heart. What does the ijazah mean? Nothing. It only means something when you do it. The ijazah is establishing a connection for something. The object is that thing, not the ijazah. As one of my teachers, he never gave us ijazah. And we studied many books with him. And you know what he said? The book is your ijazah. Learning that book is your ijazah. Learning from me is your ijazah. I don't give ijazah. And you know why he didn't give ijazah? He said, because what people do with it, they go and say, I got ijazah, and they say, I learned from so-and-so, and they learn nothing. This is not good. Many times what comes, no ijazah is going to be given. We're going to finish the book. Right? So, you know, that, and I love ijazahs. I'm an ijazah seeker. I have ijazahs a lot. But that's not what we should be looking after. Seriously, right? I can impress you with a bunch of ijazahs from great scholars, but if I'm not living like them, if I'm not practicing like them, if I'm not teaching like them, if I'm not doing the work they've done, what my ijazah mean? Doesn't mean anything, right? I can produce a bunch of handwritten ijazahs from great scholars with no problem, with my name written, covering books, completing, saying he covered this, he covered this, he covered this. And that's great. But what am I doing with it? or just to say I sat with Sheikh so-and-so, and I sat with Sheikh so-and-so, and I got an ijazah from Sheikh so-and-so, and I got a high ijazah between me and Al-Bukhari is only 20-something people. Yeah, all right, now please teach me Sahih al-Bukhari. Oh, you can't? What your ijazah means, right? You got an ijazah in tasawwuf. Could you teach me how to purify my heart? No? Okay. You got an ijazah in Aqidah, and you don't know what the proper belief, you can't explain me a basic book in Aqidah? What does your ijazah really mean? So we got to be careful about that. That doesn't downplay ijazah, but you got to remember the ijazah is for a purpose. If it's just for the blessing, just say, I got the blessing of getting the ijazah from so-and-so. I got the blessing of getting the, but don't assume that you just got the blessing, but you didn't learn, and you can't convey, and you can't build people. That's why you want an ijazah, right? And that's why many of our teachers never gave ijazah. Never. Never gave ijazah. So let's not be ijazah chasers. Let's be knowledge and practice and state chasers. Knowledge, practice, and spiritual state. Let's chase that. And then the ijazah will naturally come with it, right? Then the ijazah will naturally come with it. Inshallah. I hope I ain't raining on nobody's ijazah parade, right? But we don't want to be groupies, man. We want to be good Muslims, right? We want to be people of substance, not just groupies, you know? MashaAllah. Tayyib. Okay. Oh, y'all do it. Tayyib. Barakallahu bikum. So I guess that gives you the summary. But I want to, is there a method of cheating from a book? If so, how should we go about doing it? What does that say? Cheating from a book. I don't know, is there a method of, I mean, that's a mistake. I think that's spelling error. Of teaching from a book. Inshallah, we'll learn. Alhamdulillah. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakum Allahu khaira. May Allah increase all of you. May Allah make you winners. And tomorrow, we're going to have an edition. Yeah, I saw it was a mistake. I figured that out. We'll have another edition of the Black Imams Roundtable where we was continuing that discussion with Sheikh Abdul Karim Yahya and Sheikh Hamza Abdul Malik. And then Tuesday, we go to our main regular Black Imams Roundtable with Imam Naeem Abdullah, Imam Fahim Lee, Imam Luqman Ahmed, and the lowly Amin Muhammad. Wahid Abbas, you my man. Say it again, black man. That's what I'm talking about. Getting government grants. You have just lost what you're trying to build. Fund from yourselves, or else you're back where you started. They will come for favors later. Nothing is free. They all have strings attached. My point exactly. Learn to do for ourselves. Even if they give it to you, it's going to drop your himmah. Do it yourself. Do it yourself. Empower yourself. Build that stuff yourself, and you're going to have a much better feeling as a people. Learn to make your own cheese. Don't let the government give you cheese. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakumullahu khaira. I know some don't disagree, but we're having fun here at the end, right? Relax. I'm not a grant person. I don't believe in that. I believe we should do it ourselves. And I believe we can do it. We own our building. We did all the things we done. We never had a grant. Not one, right? We never had a grant. We support all our programs. We've been bringing scholars from all over the world. And people will tell you, we've been studying. We running successful programs, community programs, and we not once. We've never, ever had a grant. We've never received any funding from anyone besides ourselves. We did it all ourselves. And we can be proud of that. That's why we don't tap dance, right? Because we don't got our hands out for someone to feed us. So I got to toe a certain line, because if I don't, they're not going to fund me. They don't have to fund me. Doesn't matter. I say what I want, because the people who funded me, they are with me. They believe the same. They feel the same. We're on the same page. And if needed, we'll fund each other to continue to go. Once you start taking money, money always comes with something, even if it's curtail your message. That's why you got some people that are scared to say the word Wahhabi because of funding. They're afraid to say that. They won't say it. They'll say, well, oh, you know, we all, you know, they'll start dancing. Why? Because they're looking for funds. Often, they're looking to be funded. They're looking to be popular. So they're going to compromise their principles. There's a lot of that goes on. And that's all because you're taking for money from people who don't support you. So therefore, you can't be independent. You can't be courageous. You can't be bold, because you're bought and paid for. Don't take people's money that ain't in your mission. Tell them to keep their money. Tell them to keep their money. Seriously. MashaAllah. Barakallahu fikum. Jazakumullahu khaira. And the other thing, we ourselves got to support our own activities. Stop just talking and don't put your money where your mouth is, right? Put your money where your mouth is. Trust your own people. Empower your people. Stop begging. We're men and women. We can do what we got to do. Barakallahu fikum. Jazakumullahu khaira. Support each other. I love you all. See you tomorrow morning at Fajr, inshallah. After Fajr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.